Good afternoon, Calgarians, and welcome to the 23rd edition of the No Payne podcast. Carly, how are you doing today?
I am great, thank you.
Great, awesome. I'm sitting here today with our 23rd guest. We have Rob from 7 Day Permits. Rob, how you doing?
I'm doing really well.
Awesome, cool. I'm really good. I mean, besides all the snow we got last night and this morning, I thought we avoided, I thought we got the majority of the snow that we would see this year, but hey, beggars can't be choosers.
That's Calgary.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, we're happy to have you here. I know you've been on the guest list for probably going on a year now, pretty close to that. So here he is. And he brought gifts with him, too. This hat, probably can't see it from that angle, but we've got 7 Day Permit hats, glasses as well. Glasses as in cups. Probably can't see it either until we switch the angles up. But regardless, he's been a very, very terrific guest thus far. So, Rob, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I own 7 Day Permits, a drafting permitting company in Calgary, Alberta. Primarily focused in Calgary. We service all over southern Alberta. We've got some clients in BC and anywhere they build stuff, we can do the drawings and deal with the city. That's really the gist of what we do.
Yeah, right on. Well, as far as I can tell, it's pretty important because, I haven't really attempted to construct something myself or, applied for a permit for that matter. So, good question to start things off, I guess, would be why is it important to have a permit in the first place? If I were to build a shed of my own or, do an expansion of the home or something like that, why would a permit be important?
Well, permits are important just because then you're going to be making sure that you're going through adhering to all the bylaws, local codes, everything like that. At a basic level, that's just general safety, that what you can build is going to be built safely, and that what you're building is going to meet all of the bylaws so the city doesn't have an issue and ask you to tear it down later.
I guess so. So, is it just kind of like expanding square footage of the property? What could be problematic with moving forward with some sort of building without a permit?
Issues if you build without a permit, on extreme cases, whatever you build, the city could ask you to take it down. There could be fines. There's a variety of things that could go on that could cause you an issue. Contractors that build without permits, they could have issues with their licensing and things like that. So there's lots of factors where if you're going to do something, do it right, get the proper approvals. It's kind of like, driving without a driver's license. There's all types of things that why you want to make sure that you have it to actually do it. Interesting.
Because, you bring up driver's licenses and you'd feel like that could pose more of a danger to others compared to, say, building, a bonus room on your house or something like that. Outside of electrical and plumbing and things like that, I'm just curious as to how that could really impose on others.
Well, there's the structural considerations. So, each project's going to be different. Building a shed in your backyard without a permit isn't necessarily as big a deal as, a bonus room to your house or full-on addition to the house where we're dealing with structural changes to the home that if something fails, a beam comes down, post fails, or you don't have those inspections, you haven't had an engineer look at it. Right. There could, in certain circumstances, be some pretty significant issues that could come. But it's always good just to do it right.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. If you were to throw something up yourself and you just hope that it doesn't fall on someone's head, that could certainly pose some, legal trouble in the future for yourself and for others.
Yeah.
So, that makes a lot of sense. So, from what I gather, you'd worked for the city of Calgary before starting up 7 Day. You worked for the permit department, and if there was a fancier name for that, I'm not sure. But how does that compare to starting your own permit business? Is pros and cons, I guess.
Yeah, so my background, I started in construction. I had a carpentry apprenticeship, and I built for about 4.5 years before going back to university for more the architectural side. So I'm a architectural technologist is the schooling that I did. Finished that, got hired by the city, and the permit desk is about as good a way I would describe it. I was a planning service technician. PST is what they're called. So if you had questions about how to get a permit, what needed to be on the drawing, what were the bylaws, if you wanted to get in touch with codes, things like that, I was one of those individuals that you'd either call in and talk to, or if you were to go into City Hall when people used to do that. It doesn't happen too much anymore. You can apply for everything online, but Yeah, I was one of those people that would basically just educate the public about how to get permits in Calgary. So as far as translating to my company and what we do now, I mean, it was about as good of a prerequisite to what I do now as you could ask for. My full-time job was basically to memorize the bylaw, learn the processes, and help people apply for their permits. And now we just draw it and submit it to the same place that I used to review it.
Yeah, right on. Well, as you said, it certainly is a pretty suitable position to be in prior to expanding into, owning a permit business like you do. So would you consider yourself a bit of a gatekeeper in some sort? I mean, you weren't, I guess, approving permits, but I mean, helping people to understand what it entails in order to be approved?
Yeah, gatekeeper is when I was at the city.
I guess so, yeah, when you're at the city. I guess now, so I guess you help to approve permits with the position you're in now, but with the city, did you have any say in whether or not the permit was passed? Or?
Yeah, so I was by no means planner, wasn't an SCO, so I didn't release any permits or give the final approvals. But as a PSD, we were responsible for doing the preliminary bylaw checks, making sure that all the information that needed to be on the drawings was on the drawings, making sure that whatever structure they were proposing met all of the applicable bylaws, setbacks, parcel coverage, things like that. So provided the check went through, we would then send it over to the SCOs who actually issued the permit, or send it up to the planners if it was a development permit or something that you needed a relaxation for.
I see. Well, you certainly had quite an important position within that company. I mean, without people like you helping homeowners or whoever through that kind of process, it could be, I guess, fairly overwhelming.
It can be, yeah. Yeah, it's nobody likes dealing with the city. They can be a little bit tricky, which I'm not always too upset about. The more complicated municipalities keep it, the more kind of job security I have now with with my company.
Yeah,
people
of course,
continue to want to hire somebody. Yeah, I mean, it was a good job. I enjoyed my time there. I kind of always knew that I had started my company part-time just before I got hired by the city. And I just kind of did it part-time until such time came that I could kind of walk away from the city.
Right. Oh, I mean, on to bigger and better things, I suppose. If you were to put it that way, I mean, I'm sure that you really appreciated the time that you had with the city, but I guess blossoming, if you want to put it that way, into owning your own business was certainly worthwhile in the long run.
Yeah. I think, and it's more of just anytime you can do something that makes you happy, you got a little bit of passion about. It's a win-win. I was by no means passionate about working for the city. I love what I do now, and yeah, I think as long as you're doing something you're happy with, then that's half the battle right there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, enjoying what you're doing is obviously primary. I mean, it's pretty easy to get stuck in a 9-to-5, doing something that you don't appreciate or something you have no interest in.
Yeah.
A lot of people grow old rather quickly doing something like that. So
we actually have a question from a commenter. Question for Rob, for the Rob.
The Rob.
Does he notice a lot of issues when he walks around the city?
When I walk around the city?
Yeah, just strolling about.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's funny. You'll definitely see stuff. Actually, Elizabeth, my fiance, and we were driving around the other day, and you do notice things that like how did they do that, or like how do you get approval for that, or you notice lots of little things like that. I wouldn't say issues. I mean, it's tough when you just see a structure, to know if they had any kind of permits or approvals for it, and if it's something that didn't meet the bylaw. It's tough to visually, like if it's too close to a side property line, or I mean, parcel coverage, you'd never be able to just kind of visually tell. But yeah, you definitely, you kind of have an eye of looking out for things and seeing things that stand out.
It's like us with roofs.
Yeah, I was going to say similar to, being part of a roofing company and seeing some pretty incredible things walking through certain neighborhoods. I mean, even in the nicest of neighborhoods, you'll find the wildest of things sometimes. And
yeah, I wouldn't say I see it too much just out and about. I know we run into it quite a bit when we're meeting with clients, or there's demo that has started where it's quite apparent that something was done to that property without a permit, or we'll get calls sometimes about, projects that, they did a renovation without a permit and now they want to change something. So we're kind of coming in after the fact to help them get a permit for whatever either the previous owners did or they didn't think they needed a permit. And Yeah, you see all kinds of stuff that is.
Yeah, I guess people are really just undereducated when it comes to being a property owner, I suppose. And
yeah,
I guess that leads me into another question. I'm just curious about what projects actually require a permit as to which projects might not require a permit.
Yeah, and I think like education is a good term there. That there's lots of things that don't need a permit. Patios, for example, anything that you build below 2 feet above grade, you don't need a permit for any of that. Bylaws don't come into play. You can kind of do whatever you want. Sheds, we talked about that earlier. As long as it's less than 10 square meters, about 100 square feet, don't need a permit for that.
That's actually bigger than I anticipated, to be honest. I guess you can get a fairly
10 by
sized.
10. Yeah, you're allowed to just kind of go and do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. The good rule of thumb with permits is everything needs a permit. Just assume you need a permit.
Right.
And if you don't know, ask. Either contact the city, contact a company like myself, where we can kind of educate you through that process. City is definitely the best bet. They've got an online chat now homeowners can use, companies can use. For the builders that use us, part of our services are just free bylaw checks, just free education that we want to make sure people know what they're getting into. If there are any relaxations or issues, what sort of permits you're going to need. Because there's lots of things that could affect how smoothly or how quick that approval process goes. So it's, the biggest thing that I tell clients is just, ask the questions. Don't assume that you don't need a permit or that it's a certain way. It takes minutes to contact the city, call a company, and it can save you a ton of time and a ton of headache later, where we've gotten permits for stuff built, gotten permits for stuff that was built without a permit, where all it would have taken is a 5-minute call with the city, or a conversation with somebody like myself, where it's like, hey, these are the rules. As long as you can do it this way, you don't need a permit. If you do it this way, you're going to need this. And what they built, maybe they needed a relaxation, so now it's a 2 to 3 month development permit per process that we have to go through first, and then we apply for the building permits. So doing stuff without permits, back to that topic we started on, it can cause just a kind of a bunch of different issues down the road. So ask the questions, and educate yourself anytime you're looking at starting something.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I think of, as you were speaking, I thought of the whole, call before you dig kind of deal. Same thing. Call before you build, right? Call before you build.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And I guess
I might take that.
Call before you build. Yeah. 1-800 call before. I had a few extra numbers you needed, but hey, that would be worthwhile. I was just thinking how, I guess, informative that can be, obviously, to homeowners or anybody building anything for that matter, but learning that they could actually change their plans to an extent in order to change something, as in lower the height, for example, or decide to build their deck lower, as I guess I just said, or I guess minimize the size of the shed that they plan to build, could save them the whole permit process and whatever else.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
and we do quite a bit of that as well when we're meeting with somebody. If what they want is going to require some kind of breaking of the rules, or relaxation is what they call it, to the bylaw.
Right. That's a good word for it.
Yeah. We explore, if you did it this way, we could avoid that relaxation. Or there's different ways to achieve what you want in a way that's going to be a lot easier, that we can go right to the building permit. In some circumstances, you don't need a permit if you do it this way. It always kind of boils down to that education, trying to get the customer the information that they need to get them the solution they want as quickly, efficiently as possible. And sometimes you have to deal with the city. You have to go through that 2 to 3 months process. You're fighting with them a little bit, going back and forth, and that's just the nature of, sometimes people want what they want.
Yeah, of course, but I suppose the wait time would be, less frustrating if you were really eager to have this permit. You know what I mean? If you're, say, well, this brings me into something else, I guess, like if you wanted to build a pool in your backyard, for example, if you're super eager to have this swimming pool, having to wait for the proper permits to get it done, I guess it wouldn't be so bad, knowing in the long run you'd have the permit to build. Is it necessary to have a permit to put a pool in the backyard?
Yeah, good question. I personally haven't done one. Yes, there are building codes that apply to pools.
Right.
I can't remember off the top of my head here.
It might be more a call before you dig, maybe.
Yeah. So and I mean and that's too about education, is that the bylaw is huge, the building code's huge. I'm by no means an expert in all aspects of it. I believe with things like a pool, so like a hot tub, for example. I mean, you need a building permit for a hot tub. Anything that I believe can contain more than 2 feet of water.
Oh, really?
I think it's 2 feet. Yeah, so some ponds, stuff like that, decorative landscaping. Technically, you need it. And yeah, so pools and hot tubs, you do need permits for that. There's a lot of things in Calgary, and I'm only going to kind of speak to Calgary. That's my biggest comfort level of bylaws and processes. There's a lot of things that are exempt from development permits that you can just go right to building permits. So if you meet a certain specific set of rules, you are, to a certain extent, just allowed to do whatever you want. As long as you meet the bylaw, meet the code. The city can't tell you, no, you can't build a garage, unless there's relaxations and things like that. But yeah, a pool, there's definitely rules for it. I'm not sure what they are off the top of my head, but we won't do it here. You could pull up the bylaw and I can tell you where that section is, but
yeah, okay. I think we got a couple more questions coming in.
Well, I heard you say relaxation. We had someone ask, what's a relaxation? I'm not sure if you said that.
No worries. Yeah. So a relaxation is just, so a garage, for example, the maximum size for an accessory building in Calgary is 75 square meters. Let's say you wanted to go 76. You're going to ask to relax that rule. So it's a relaxation to the land use bylaw. So there's certain rules about what you can do, how high, how big, how tall, etc. If you want to break those rules, breaking the rules is through a relaxation. So a company like myself would produce those drawings and deal with the city to get that approved for you.
So some sort of wiggle room, I guess, or there is some flexibility when I guess within a few feet, maybe, or a few inches or whatever. If it's not too exaggerated, then they're usually or potentially okay with.
Yeah, ideally we always like to avoid them because, again, as soon as you start looking at the relaxation, it cues the development permit, and that's at 2 to 3 months to get something like that approved. So it's a long wait time, and it opens you up to the guarantee kind of goes away. Nobody can guarantee that a development permit's going to be approved, if there's a relaxation or something like that involved. But because what'll happen is, even if the city's okay with it, part of it, they're going to advertise it. Your neighbors can comment. If you've got somebody beside you that's kind of a pain or doesn't like you, they could complain about your development permit and cause you some issues. So we like to avoid it. But yeah, there is wiggle room to a certain extent. That the land use bylaw is it's a bylaw set for most circumstances all across Calgary. So each lot is unique. Some lots are more suitable to different developments than others. So yeah, you can break rules in certain circumstances, and as long as you can justify it, and that's the biggest thing.
Right.
Like, why do you need the extra height? Why do you need this? As long as you can rationalize it to the city, for the most part, they're pretty good.
Who would have thought the city would be so chill, right? I guess that's one way to put it.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I guess within a few feet, I guess understandably, they probably get a lot of hate, and if you couldn't, at least expand just a few more inches or feet in one way or another.
Yeah, the worst, cool. And I don't deal with it too much now on this side of the counter. I mean, when I was at the city, it is tough when somebody comes in and the bylaw says it's 1.2 meters and they're 1.22 or something. And it's like, well, inch or a mile. I mean, it doesn't.
You couldn't see that without a laser.
Yeah, and it's tough to rationalize it to people. And how I tried to do it when I was at the city was it doesn't matter what rule the city made. There'd always be somebody that's like just outside of it. So it doesn't matter if it was 2 feet, 4 feet, 100 feet. Somebody would come in with 101 and complain. So
yeah,
rules are just rules, and it goes back to that education, asking the questions. Just it's not a big deal to deal with the city to get permits if you know what you're getting into, and you have somebody that you can trust to just walk you through that process.
Yeah, right on. Well, see, Calgary is your friend. The city is your friend.
They are. Yeah, they do get a lot of hate, but to a certain extent, it was the hardest job I think I've ever had in my entire life.
The hardest.
Working as a planning service technician.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's because it's that volume of information. You're required to know everything on the residential bylaws, commercial. This is a huge volume of information, and you just deal with people all the time. That I'm very grateful now to be on this side, where when I have the question, I get to call the city and I'm not the one that has to go and dig and try and find my answer.
Yeah, of course. Other side of the fence now. Carly's been gesturing. I think we've got some more cool questions coming
Little
in.
giggly. Just first thing, our most recent comment is he's so fidgety. I'm not sure which one of you it applies to, but one of you are very fidgety, I guess.
Maybe it's me. I
Thank
don't
you,
know.
Pauline.
I think.
Oh, it's if it's my mother commenting, she's talking about me, obviously. Thanks a lot, Mom.
And then we also
oh, right. That's not embarrassing or anything at all.
We had someone ask, what type of education do you need to become a city residential inspector?
A city residential inspector. I'm assuming building inspector? Or any type of inspector? So let me see here. If you want to be an inspector, so a lot of times from the city, what they would look for, ideally, if you're a building inspector, ideally they want to see you be a carpenter coming from a building background. There's somebody like myself, so an architectural technologist or somebody more of the schooling background has the ability to do that. I can't really speak to like any of the trade inspectors. I know with building, I've got a buddy of mine that's a safety code officer. There's a whole course that you have to take and be registered and exams and things that you have to do to get through it. But there's kind of the book way or the practical way. Both can kind of get you to the same end goal there, if that's what you're going after.
Cool. More you know.
Well, we're happy to have some questions flowing in from
keep them coming.
a multitude of social medias. Glad that we're streaming on multiple platforms.
Yes.
Yeah, right. So what I think this would be a cool question in terms of bylaw.
Mm-hmm.
What is the most extreme infraction, I guess, that you've seen? I guess if you've seen something that was very certainly
an issue.
I guess so. I wasn't sure what word to use, but in terms of bylaw, you seen anything that was wildly unacceptable?
I mean, there's lots. There's once when I was at the city, we found an entire house that was built without permits, and that was kind of crazy. As far as a specific bylaw or an infraction to that, there's the common ones. People doing like secondary suites is obviously a big one to get developed without permits, without the proper approvals. I don't know what the most intense bylaw. I'll think about that. I won't hold up the whole thing.
No,
I'll
it's
let that ruminate for a little bit here.
I mean, to kind of ask myself that same question in terms of roofing, like I've seen plywood overhang the eave end so much so that it's like almost blocking off the entire gutter. Like they overhung the plywood so far that
the gutter just has its own little roof.
Almost, precisely. So things like that I've seen. I mean, I also understand it's difficult to answer that question on the spot when you've seen so many wild things.
Well, about this house, we had someone ask what happened to the house that was built with no permits.
I can't remember. I mean, I was, as a PST, we would kind of it came across, it would have got escalated up to somebody and
demolished.
So do you know if they would make someone demolish a house?
Yeah, so in extreme circumstances, that's like the worst case scenario. If you do something really bad without approval, yes, the city does have the ability to basically tear it down. It's pretty tough for the city doesn't like to have to get people to rip stuff down. So likely what would have happened in that circumstance is they would have done up new plans, applied for the development permit, applied for the building permit, and just got everything approved.
Maybe
after the fact.
Tickets too.
Possibly. Tickets, There was a house, and I can't remember where it was now. It's in Ontario somewhere, and it was an interesting story where these guys, they built this house, and it was $2 or $3 million. Nice place. City, I guess, approved it with the front setback, so the house was too close to the front yard. Anyways, neighbors complained. This was after the house was built. It was determined that this issue happened, and the city had actually screwed up, and the homeowners had to tear it down. Because lawsuits and
the city cover it. Well, I'd sue the city too.
I'm assuming they got sued. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Holy man.
But and I can't remember where it was a news article I saw a bit ago, but. Yeah, I mean, in extreme circumstances, stuff gets torn down, and kind of is what it is there.
I guess it's as to be expected, I suppose. I mean, they run a pretty tight ship, I suppose. So if you break any serious code or disregard certain bylaw, you'd face some consequences. So moving into another great question, I suppose, some of the consequences that somebody might face if they were to build without a permit. Or, say build a pond without a permit or a pool, anything in that nature? What do you know in terms of consequences?
Yeah, so I didn't deal with a ton when I was at the city with what kind of different degrees of consequences there are. At a basic level, what will happen is if the city finds out you did something without a permit, you're going to get a piece of paper that says, hey, get a permit, please, basically. As long as you then move forward and deal with whatever they're asking you to do, it's fine. If you stop, or if you don't stop work, or you don't go and pursue that, then yes, they can fine you, and it can escalate into other things like that. So but yeah, the city doesn't just jump to fines or things like that. You'll get a notification that, hey, this is not good.
No arson or anything crazy like that. They won't just come by and light a match by accident. Nothing crazy. Throw some like sulfuric acid in the pool you just built. I'm like, nothing crazy. Okay, well, that's good. Calgary's on our side in terms of sending you a notification or a polite letter, something like that. Well, that's great. Okay, cool. Well, you brought along some photographs with you.
Yeah, you can
I guess showcasing some of the work you've done, some of the properties that you've had to deal with, I guess. So we'll move on to the first image. Boom. Right. So is this one of your drawings?
Yeah. So this is a rear addition, actually. So the existing house is on the left there, and then the 2-story addition is what we did at the back.
Oh, wow.
Right on. I guess that house would have been a little bit boring before the additions, eh?
Yeah. I like the before and afters. We don't do a ton of really cool stuff. We're not, if you were to get a design firm in here, or an architect, or somebody that dealt more with kind of living and breathing, wanting to design cool stuff, we're a little bit different. We're purely focused on whatever the clients want is what I want. We want clients to have a good idea of what they want to get a permit for, and we kind of swoop in, get the approvals, and then we're on to the next job.
Right.
So, but we do like being able to work on some cool stuff, and it is neat to see that transformation of the properties.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to say that's probably a great way to keep clients too. I want what you want, right?
Yeah.
We're going to make your dream come to life.
Yeah. Well,
and they'll probably be on board.
Yeah, and the majority of my clients are builders. So we do a lot of just business to business, where we're kind of the permit getters for the companies that we deal with.
Right.
So they find the client, they figure out what the client wants, and then I get the call to come and measure it up and do up the drawings. And we found it is a good fit that, a lot of designers, architects, engineers, they don't necessarily have the best reputation in the construction industry. A lot of people, can complain about those guys. Where we've tried to eliminate that, where we're not here to complicate things. We're not here to kind of even give our 2 cents, unless it's related to code, bylaws, like, hey, if you did this, it's going to be easier. So we'll obviously offer design advice that way, but for the most part, we want what you want.
What if I wanted like a 20-foot by 20-foot window? This is just my own curiosity. I'm wondering about like, say, permits pertaining to window size. Like, what if you wanted like an unbelievably large window? I'm wondering if anything would.
Yeah, so I mean, there's definitely glazing calculations and concerns that you have to do for sure.
Certain thickness and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it'd probably be pretty difficult to get a 400 square foot piece of glass.
Yeah,
but,
no doubt.
let's say you could. Likely would have to go on the front or the back of the house. I can't see ever being able to put that on the side, at least in an inner city development. So yeah, I mean, but that is a good question. So I mean, you need permits to put in a window. There are rules, not just for the construction side of just how is that opening framed and structurally is it all supported, but also glazing. The building code does specify what percentage of a wall is allowed to be glass, and that has a bunch of variables that will increase or decrease the amount that you're allowed. So no, I mean, that's a good question, and that's one that we see lots. There's a lot of properties where we'll go out and they want to install a window, and after we've done our glazing calculations, the previous owners had already put in windows and they were overglassed. They weren't allowed to do anymore.
I see.
And it's more difficult in that scenario, because with the building code, you can't necessarily relax it in the same way you can a bylaw. So we can go to the city and be like, hey, like, the bylaw says this, but we want to do that. Is that okay? And they can say yes. With the building code, you'd go through something called a variance, and it's not really meant to relax. It's more of you're proposing a different way to meet the same rules, is kind of the most basic way that I can explain it. But glazing, for example, like, you can't relax it, or the alternative would be like, hey, I'm going to sprinkler my building or sprinkler my house, and then maybe there might be options to do something a little bit different. So it boils down to that asking questions. And if you want to do a giant window, yes, there'd be some considerations.
Cool. Yeah, see, I was trying to be funny, but also I had a feeling that windows might play into the permit thing a little bit. So I guess it was a win-win. I guess I'm not a complete idiot, and you had a terrific answer. So hey, terrific. One question just pertaining to the word glazing, what that entails exactly.
Glass,
I mean, glazing is glass essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the glazing requirements is the glass. So on this one, for example, and kind of when you're looking at the rules around windows, when you drive around, or next time you drive around, you're going to see a lot of windows on the front of the house, a lot of windows on the back of the house, very few on the sides. True. And it's not because the view sucks, it's because you're very restricted on the amount of unprotected openings that you're allowed on the side of a property. So it's all based on how far the building is away from the property line, how big the wall face is that the window's going in. So in your typical inner city, 4-foot side yards at 1.2 meters, which is the minimum setback, you're allowed 7%. That's
interesting.
It. 7% glass.
That entire side, I guess.
For the entire wall face, yeah.
I suppose it increases privacy in a way as well.
It does, yeah. And there's other bylaws that kind of come into play with privacy as well. But yeah, that's where you see not too many on the sides, and one like this would be an example of we would have done a stepped calculation. So you can think of the side property line on this project is I guess in front of the view that we're looking at right now. So where the building steps back and then goes, we can apply different calculations to different wall faces based on how far away from a property line they are. So if this was all in line with that front wall, maybe we couldn't have done those big windows up top. But because we were a little bit further from the property line, it opened up some more possibilities there.
So that's just another testament to the importance of having qualified permit company. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but somebody as knowledgeable as you when it comes to the permit delegation and whatnot, because you were able to find different ways to kind of help the
to
clients
work within the
dream.
rules. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to design stuff, and really the biggest thing with hiring somebody that hopefully knows the rules is, when I was at the city, I saw a lot of homeowners and even companies would come in with beautifully drafted drawings. So amazing sets of plans, they're beautiful, but they didn't meet the bylaw, or they didn't know what the rules were. Yeah. And it doesn't really matter how pretty the picture is or how nicely it's presented. If it doesn't meet the rules, it kind of doesn't matter. So it is important that you want to, screen your drafting company the same way you're going to screen your builder. Do they know what they're doing? Do they have that expertise? Because you can spend a lot of money on a set of drawings that are kind of worthless that you can't build anything with. Right. So
okay, cool. Well, we learned something new every photo, presumably.
Every 5 minutes.
Let's move on. What's that?
Sorry, I was just saying you learn something new every day, but in this podcast, it's every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Totally true. Okay, we're looking at another photo.
Yeah, here. So this was an after, and I think we had some technical issues getting photos to you, but I have a few of the just kind of the before. Eventually, we'll come to just basically my rendering of this. So this is just a renovation that we did, and I did this one because this was kind of cool. We actually raised the roof 2 feet, so we took the roof off, put the roof back on, and went from 8-foot ceilings to 10-foot ceilings, and then obviously a new front entry there as well.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it turned out quite nice.
I would certainly be very proud if I was the homeowner in this case. That's terrific. I'm curious as to why the additional 2 feet in height. To raise the ceiling just another 2 feet, just to create a more open atmosphere, I guess, within the home. Yeah,
just to have those higher ceilings.
Cool. Well, it certainly is nice. I've been in quite a variety of homes with all the inspections that I do, and no, it's a different vibe in there for sure. So understandable. This looks like, I think, that same house.
Yeah. Oh, that would have just been a little before.
Okay, so I guess what would the percentage allowance be on the front of a home? You said 7% for the sides.
Yeah. So 7% is at 1.2 meters. So 4 feet, that's just the minimum. If you're within 1.2, you're not allowed any glass. What happens on the front and the back of the house is we still look at that distance to the property line. So where you can get so much more is once you hit a certain distance from a property line, the code goes up to 100%. So in most circumstances on the front, specifically on the front, because we can actually take our calculations to the center of a road or a lane. And in most circumstances, once you're over about 10 meters, you're just allowed 100%. The whole front of the house could be glass if you wanted. So short answer, 100% probably.
Yeah, it makes sense. I've seen some homes like that.
Yeah.
Not even just in Calgary. I'm from the Okanagan, and actually
Kamloops. I was born
right
and
on.
raised,
I'm born in Kamloops.
Yeah.
Hey, cool. Right on. Yeah, I grew up in Penticton.
Oh, cool.
Cool. Right on. Not too far away. Actually, right near the house I grew up in. Yeah, there was a house. It was a single story, but the entire front of the house.
Yeah.
Was huge panes of glass.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's how they can get away, or not get away with it, but it's just, the code allows it. And at a certain point, the code now, there's no rules really. You can do whatever you want as far as glass, and it's really to deal with fire. That and some people do think that it's privacy when you talk about that there's restrictions to the amount of glass, and it has the code doesn't have too much to do with privacy on that, but they're referred to as unprotected openings, the glazing portion. So if your neighbor's house is on fire, the first thing that's going to happen to your house is the windows are going to blow out. It's an unprotected opening, and that allows the fire to get into your house. So when buildings are close together, they want to limit the amount of unprotected openings that are there. Or on something like this, on the front of the house, if that house lights on fire, it doesn't need to protect anybody else, or nothing is going to get lit on fire in front of it that could affect the house. So back, there's no real risk of anything being adversely affected from basically a giant, your 20 by 20
right.
Hey, Brody,
a boy can dream.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, our camera is black. This one.
Uh-oh.
I think the battery's out.
Battery's out.
Gave
There's
me a
no way.
warning.
It's plugged in. The battery's out. You can actually just wiggle the connection one on the very back. Just try to wiggle it. Try to get it going in there. But hey, we'll have to just. Yeah, well, it's the one that connected right behind the one that's the button for it. But hey, who needs a wide angle, right? Because our faces are beautiful enough,
our
and
TV
we have
camera.
Our TV cam.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. It totally did. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. What you're gonna have to do, I think, in this case. I think I found the solution. Okay, Carly, in the meantime, I want you to entertain our guests. Why don't you sing a song or tell us a poem?
Do you know any good jokes?
Jokes are good.
I don't embarrass myself in front of all these watchers. Well, we did get a question, though.
Okay.
Oh, Pauline just said it's back. Pauline, I switched cameras. It's not.
No,
Sorry,
it's
Pauline. We got someone asked, do you know the origin of permits?
Origin of permits? Well, and it's funny. I think in Mike's post, he said I was going to come on here to talk about the origin of permits, and I was
He's the one that asked.
I never said that. So funny enough, I did watch something the other day, and you can fact check this. I'm pretty sure it started in Rome, and the story was that there was a very wealthy fellow that built basically like a mini Colosseum, and the Colosseum collapsed and thousands of people died, and that is what cued the city to basically say, "Okay, moving forward, nobody's allowed to build Colosseums without having us take a look at it." And again, fact check that. Saw it on YouTube, so it's got to be true. But
I'll just trust you on this one.
Yeah, I mean, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was something very similar to that. I mean, it's something would have obviously had to happen. That there was probably a lot of mayhem caused from it, and yeah, that's,
mayhem. That sounds like our podcast room right
yeah.
now.
Yeah,
What's going on?
But yeah, Mike, if you're still watching and you want to Google that, let us know in the comments if I was correct.
Yeah, you win an extra cup.
I win an extra cup. Perfect.
Hey Brody, it's on.
Oh yeah, no, problem solved. Problem solved. First and foremost, we have every camera active that we need. So where were we? Thanks, Rob, for the storytelling.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go back
permits.
and listen to it 'cause it's cool.
I missed it. I know I totally missed it, but that's okay. I guess the only real question would be whether or not people would have been safer without permits if we just never started making permits in the beginning.
Safer. He just said people probably died.
Well, they built the Great Pyramids without a permit, did they not?
You don't know.
And that's pretty heavy. Pretty. So far, it's still standing. So I mean,
ask them.
Yeah.
If people were building pyramids, we might get away.
We were
with
building triangles, still probably.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would like to emphasize that they are a good idea.
Indeed.
Don't listen to Brody. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Structurally sound or cylindrical
Yeah.
buildings are also fairly stable. Hence underground bunkers and things, all cylindrical.
Yeah.
Anyways,
but you do know that it took a few pyramids for them to get it right? So
sure
if they had
did,
somebody
yeah.
reviewing the first set.
Yeah, Joser was one, and I can't remember all of them now, but yeah, there were some, the bent pyramid. There's a few. Yeah, trial and error.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Anyways, thanks for hanging in there. We apologize for the technical difficulties, but that's life, right? Sometimes it snows when you least expect it, kind of like today. Anyways, moving forward, another beautiful home, courtesy of 7-day permits.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about this place?
So this was a flip that we did. This was actually for one of our builders, Max Green. It's kind of a flip that they did, and I think there's going to be a before and after on a few of these ones as well, as far as what the house actually looked like before. And I always like those ones, but this one was relatively simple. Took the existing house, the front portion, so that section on the right was an addition that we did to it. A little bit of a new roof line, and then just interior gutted the whole thing, and flipped it. So we do quite a few of those where it's I don't do a lot of brand new construction or new homes, but a lot of taking it back down to the foundation and going back up, or these flip scenarios where the existing core of the house is fine and it just needs a facelift.
It's hard to picture a house, prior to the additions.
Well, Swipe, I think he said there might be a before for this
Oh,
home.
before
You-
for
I
this
think you
home.
have them
Okay, I'm
back.
not sure
Oh,
if all
no.
the photos are in order or not.
No, I think when I switched them, I had them on my end, but I know we had some issues with me sending them to you. But
no, I don't think that's it either.
we'll come across it eventually, I'm sure.
I think you're right. So I think we might just go right back to where we were. Right. So what can you tell us about this next spot? Is this before or after?
This is after. This is just another 2-story addition. So just adding a second floor onto the house. Nothing really too excessive on that one.
I feel like that'd be a hell of a project. I mean, yeah, doing a re-roof is one thing, but building an entire floor, that'd take quite a few skilled tradesmen, I should say.
Yeah, there's a bit that goes into it. For the most part, I mean, most foundations can support a second floor. So it's typically not that big of a deal. First step is always, if you're looking at doing a second story addition, get a structural engineer out, have them take a look at the existing foundation.
Okay, right.
If it's okay, then you're pretty safe to move forward. They're going to have to sign off on it at the end of the day anyways. So yeah,
makes sense. So
starting with the engineer is a good idea.
Typical bungalow, could that support a second floor typically?
For the most part, yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, especially in Calgary, I mean, if there's a full basement under it and you've got an 8-foot deep foundation on a footing, there's no reason why it shouldn't be able to support another floor above it.
It's probably a little lighter than I would anticipate, I guess. The added building materials, I mean, for the second floor.
Yeah, there's some additional dead loads and the floor framing and things like that. But I mean, when you think about it, like your floor joists and stuff like that, there's not a terrible amount of weight.
Right. Carly thought that was a hilarious question.
Roof loads are going to be the same because we're just shifting that roof higher. So,
I guess so.
Yeah.
I just don't know how heavy you'd anticipate half a house to be.
Another half a house, well, pretty heavy, but
Not
I mean,
something you anticipate,
what's the
I
typical
guess.
foundation, like 2.5 feet wide, 2 feet wide or so?
Like
less than that?
8 inches, yeah.
Oh, it's even less. So that's like, I thought it was even wider than that. See, I don't know. What do I know? I'm a roofer.
Your typical house foundation, like your foundation walls here, they're probably going to be 8 inches thick. Yeah.
Well, enough to dampen the rock and roll in this basement. I've got a 4x12, a couple of them actually, on the other side of that curtain. That's can raise hell in this basement, and I'm sure the neighbors are happy for the 8 inches of concrete.
Absolutely.
Anyways, this is a new photo.
Yeah, so it's a backyard suite. So those have definitely grown in popularity over the last little bit. So it's a secondary suite above a detached garage. And yeah, the city's done quite a bit to make it a lot easier to apply for secondary suites. The building code can make it a little bit more complicated, but development permits, for example, are free right now. If you want to just try to get a secondary suite either in your house, like a basement suite or a backyard suite, it's free to ask the city, so they don't charge you for the DP process. And then, yeah, if they say yes, then you can move forward and apply for it, and then you've got a great rental property, or at least a rental aspect to your property.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, at least gathering the information necessary in order to pursue something like a new suite. I mean, that being free information, I think is super worthwhile. I mean, that would deter a lot of folks, I think, if they had to pay for those kind of pamphlets or whatever sort of information packages they send out.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of goes back to just making sure you call the city. The city has a ton of information. There's check sheets. Their website is Calgary's anyways is pretty good at having their little categories depending on what it is you want to do, and being able to find the information yourself or just call them,
Right.
and they'll be able to let you know everything you want to know about backyard suites and can your property do it, and what would be some of the hurdles you got to overcome.
Right on. Well, yeah, I mean, maybe we'd have a suite of our own someday, eh? You never know.
What?
Well, I mean, building our own suite.
Sorry, I was reading.
to rent.
Mike actually sent us a fact check.
Oh,
I was reading
perfect.
it.
A fact check from Mike Payne himself.
I hate to break it to you. I think you're wrong. Maybe.
Darn.
Maybe. He did Google, so you don't have to trust, but I don't want to read this. It's quite the speech here. Long story short, something in the Bible. It was done in
In the Bible
biblical times. Yeah,
Biblical
Bible
times.
A
biblical-
biblical permit.
biblical.
Oh,
Permits go
geez.
way back.
Well,
Then you
Mike,
described a king.
I will forward you the YouTube video that says otherwise.
Hey, you and Mike can have a debate.
Great. We have to have a round two podcast.
Next week
Yeah.
we'll feature Mike and you having a
Yeah,
debate on
well,
here.
there you go.
We'll Skype Mike in
Yeah.
into the podcast. here.
I did say full disclosure.
He warned us.
I-
yeah.
Indeed.
I
Yeah.
cannot confirm.
Okay, cool. Anyways, as to the photo we have displayed currently,
Yeah.
getting closer and closer to that 20 by 20 window.
We're getting pretty close there, yeah. So this is actually our first semi-detached that we did. So side-by-side dwelling. So each side's its own unit, and yeah, so new house. So we'll do everything from simple renovations, garages, backyard suites, all the way to custom home design and permitting. So basically anything you need a permit for from a building perspective, we can assist with producing the drawings to get you something like that at the end of the day, and get approval to build that.
What kind of, I guess what I'm getting at is like the photos or the drawings that we've seen already, you're doing those yourselves, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, they look great. And I mean, yeah, no, I don't have the dexterity, nor do I have the wherewithal to draw something as detailed as that. So,
Yeah. Well, it's all computers. Yeah.
Right,
It's
well.
the software that we use. And so there's different softwares, and where the what I use is Revit. It's more of a 3D modeling. So you're probably familiar with AutoCAD. That's kind of the.
I can't say that I am. No.
Okay.
When it comes to computers, I'm way more
Yeah.
audio oriented,
Okay.
less
AutoCAD's
visual.
the main kind of drafting. They kind of pioneered the whole thing. Revit's still from the same parent company, but AutoCAD's all 2D, so you're just drawing lines digitally on the computer. Where in Revit, we're modeling it. So when I draw the wall, I'm specifying the thickness of the wall, the height of that wall. So all of the renderings that you do see here, that's just default what the software that I use spits out after we're done a project. There's nothing really special that needs to happen. You're always working in that 3D space.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, terrific.
Yeah. So and this
Modern,
is the drawing of that house that we were just looking at.
Right.
So
Okay. Yeah.
it's good for homeowners. It helps them visualize. They don't necessarily, a lot of homeowners can't necessarily look at it at a 2D set of plans or a floor plan or even a front elevation and really understand exactly what's happening. So with Revit, we can actually go in and we'll do Zoom meetings with our clients, and I can basically float around the house. You can go inside it. You can show them all different aspects, all different types of views, very easily and quickly to help get across what a certain part of the project is going to look like, or how, if we change this roof, how it's going to affect something else. So
Very, very helpful. I mean, I myself, if I was designing a home, having access to this sort of imagery would be a huge, huge benefit for sure.
Yeah.
I totally understand. Yeah. If I were to design a home, it would be pyramid shaped.
pyramid
Right?
shape.
No, maybe. Who
Enough with the
knows?
Pyramids.
It takes a lot to quarry and transfer those blocks. I mean, we're getting off topic here, but I'm a bit of an Egyptologist. I can't say that. I mean, that's a huge overstatement, but
What's the fun of the podcast?
I love ancient
Change it
archaeology. Ancient archaeology in Egypt, certainly wonders to behold.
I'm not sure if you answered this already, but something I was wondering, when you so someone applies for a permit to build and they get the permit, are you out of the process after that?
Yeah, good question. For the most part, yeah. We're by no means general contractors, project management. Our job is to get people the permit to go and build. Obviously things come up, things change. We're always a phone call away for our customers, obviously, to help them if a problem arises or anything like that. But for the majority of the time, I kind of know I did my job right when I give you the permit and I don't really hear from you again. That you're able to go and build it, it's done.
For sure.
You know, the clients that come back after they have the permit, it's because something has changed or they ran into an issue. And sometimes through no fault of anybody's, it's just you don't necessarily know what you're getting into on a project until demo starts. So we make a lot of assumptions at the design phase. Once they open up that wall and they see what's there, maybe we do have to go back out with the engineers again and take a look, and maybe that does cue a revision to the drawings. So yeah. But yeah, for the most part, our services, kind of our contract anyways, is to get you the permit. What you do with said permit is kind of up to you.
Cool.
Whether you're going to build it yourself or hire somebody.
Good to know you don't get a lot of callbacks. 'Cause,
No.
nobody likes callbacks.
Yeah.
Well, it's a compliment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course, compliment. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess it's maybe a little more often in the roofing trade, I guess, just because, like, say, leak repairs, things like that. You get a ton of rain and small pinholes that can, result in leaking inside the
Exactly,
home.
yeah.
It's sometimes difficult to figure
Yeah.
out. But
Oh, with anything construction, when you guys are repairing stuff, or with the general contractors that we work with, they definitely get more callbacks where it's just everything's on paper at my point. It is kind of, it is what it is. Everybody's expected to, from the time I apply for the permit, I'm applying with the drawings that they gave me the okay to apply with.
Right,
So
right.
nothing hopefully has changed.
it's a luxury that you should certainly enjoy, for sure.
It's it is not lost on me that yeah, I am pretty grateful to be on the design side. I built for a bit, and yeah, I'm happy doing what I'm doing now, and yeah.
Yeah, no, you seem happy. You speak passionately on these topics, which is terrific, and I'm happy you're doing something you enjoy, for sure. Cool. Moving on. Another magnificent piece of art.
Yeah, this one's actually still under construction. It's a little inner city, so we got this through actually as and I'm hoping that one of the files that you do have is going to be the before. This was a bungalow, just this little single story house, probably 800 square feet or so.
Wow.
Yeah, addition off the front, second story addition, and a rear attached garage as well that you can't see from this view. But we got it through the city as an addition. So there's a bunch of different rules, and sometimes where builders and contractors are coming to me on how to not necessarily skirt rules, but with the new home warranty that's come into effect over the last couple of years, a lot of times people are wanting to avoid having the city look at it as a brand new house. If you look at it as a new house, there's some other things that come into play. So even though this is, for all intents and purposes, a new house, we kept enough of the existing structure to have it go through as an addition. So again, back to that value of chatting with somebody, or you have an idea or a concept of what you want. There's easier and more complicated ways. Very easily, we could have just knocked it down. It would have been a brand new house. They would have had to go the new home warranty. But if we could keep a certain amount of walls and we did a certain thing, maybe sacrifice from their initial concept a little bit, but we were able to get it approved in a much easier and cheaper way.
And in the long way, more beneficial to the client.
Yeah, and it's always a case by case. Like we get a lot of people that think by default always saving existing structure equals saving money, and it's not always the case. Sometimes it is easier and cheaper to knock it down and rebuild. Just because there's something there that you can reuse doesn't mean you should. So you always look at it in that case by case basis, that each scenario is different, and sometimes it makes more sense to keep what's there and build around it. Sometimes if they want to go something completely different, it's much easier just to knock it down and just start fresh. If you start fresh, you're going to be ending with a much better product as well, that you can kind of build from that ground up again, and it's nice. So
I see. You said this home is still in construction.
this one's still under construction.
Right?
Yeah,
I see. Okay. This might be a difficult question for you to answer, just, I guess, in terms of cost to the client for these sort of upgrades. I mean, you said they did a whole second floor, as well as a kind of expanded the front side of the home.
Yeah, yeah, they're big. Now, I'm not the guy you want to talk to about construction costs or anything like that. So
Yeah, no, not that important.
I don't keep up to date with labor costs, costs of materials. All of that is just exploding right now. It's quite expensive to be building, as I'm sure your guys' product is no different than anybody else's.
Let's hope I got a few of the right stocks in that case.
Yeah, but yeah. So and we get that asked actually quite a bit. Like, what do you think it's going to cost to build this? And I just like, you have to go and talk with a contractor.
Yeah.
Or have somebody that has that expertise.
Right.
And it's tough if they're just asking the question, where a lot of builders are going to need a set of drawings. So at the end of the day, if you are doing something more complex, you're going to need a company like mine to do up at least a preliminary set of drawings to give the contractor an overall scope of what you're doing, for them to base any kind of pricing on. So where you find homeowners kind of getting into some issues, or somebody that I'll meet with a contractor and like, hey, I want to develop my basement, how much does it cost? And you can get numbers all over the place unless you actually have some sort of drawing, some sort of plan as far as what it is that you're doing. I think you should always be a little skeptical of how accurate any quote you're going to get is going to be. It's a little bit different than maybe with your guys's, where with roof area, but obviously, a 1,000 square foot flat roof is going to be different than a 1,000 square foot roof that has an oval, turret on it.
Yeah, sloped versus flat.
Yeah,
different building materials, so obviously variables when it comes to building costs and so labor and whatnot.
Yeah, so there's lots of variables that I just we don't get involved in any of that.
I suppose that could be a blessing. I mean, because clients can get a little aggravated, when it comes down to negotiations and things. So
and it's also kind of one of the things I wanted to chat about is like when to hire a company like mine versus when do you want an architect, when do you want an interior designer. There's lots of different kind of design fields and professionals that you can hire to help you with a project. Our clients, the guys that we go after, it's to a certain extent, we already want them to know what they want. They're going to have a budget. They will have already kind of figured that out. We're getting the permit. Or if you go with an architect or more a company on the design side, chances are that is part of their services. Okay, what is your budget? Because now they're specifying a certain type of stone or a certain type of finish, or there's lots of different variables that go into both the design and the construction and the detail on those drawings, where a set of drawings from us is going to be different than a set of drawings from an architect. Not that both of them aren't going to get you the same permit. There's just going to be a lot more detail on one, where on ours are going to be a little bit more simplified. Materials are kind of up to you.
Right.
We're not really here to help you pick out the specific type of stone. We're going to just tell we're just going to tell the city, is it natural stone or is it manufactured stone? At the end of the day, the choice is really up to our clients. So,
hey, well, right on. I guess another luxury of sorts. I guess, not having to deal with as many disgruntled clients, giving them a price they can't afford or whatever else. You provide obviously a very, very important and worthwhile product. I wouldn't say product, but permits are extremely necessary, right? So,
they are. Yes.
They definitely play a huge part or have a huge role in the process. And you get to avoid throwing a price at them that pisses them off, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah. Okay. We got a new photo.
Yeah, so this is another flip. So similar to that one we saw a little bit ago, was a bungalow.
Right.
This one's actually still just a bungalow. It's just got much higher ceilings and a steeper slope to the roof.
That's a nice bungalow.
It was, yeah. This one turned out quite cool. So with this one, I think we did an addition off the front again. So where the door is, I think that whole side is the addition. And then similar with that other one, rear attached garage on it as well. So yeah, quite a few changes to that one, and that one we got through as an addition as well, and not a new home.
So, what would be like the primary difference between, say, you're saying a new home versus a reconstructed older dwelling? I guess, like what would be the major differences, or how could that drastically affect I guess what the client would have to deal with?
It's mainly the new home warranty. The permitting side is about the same. You need it for these substantial changes. Chances are you need a development permit to do either a new home or to do the addition. So it's going to be 2 to 3 months to go through that permitting process. Costs of the permits are negligibly different. It is that new home warranty, where if it's considered a new home, the province and the city of Calgary is going to want to have somebody pull a warranty on that home. So where builders want to try to, in certain circumstances avoid that is it can be a little difficult to, they don't necessarily want to take responsibility for an existing foundation, for example. That if something happens later on, they're going to be on the hook for it. New construction, that's totally fine. It's built from the ground up. They built it. It's okay. So that's what we found in our conversations with builders, why we want to try to work around some of those rules, is that if we can get it in as an addition, the liability is a little bit down as far as how long they're going to be responsible for it. All the contractors that we deal with, they're going to offer their own warranties, of course. The new home warranty is just a little bit more extreme, which when you're just doing an addition to the house, it may or may not be necessary, and if we can avoid the need for it, then the homeowner, the builder, everybody's kind of happy. It saves them some money at the end of the day.
Right on. Good to know. Well, hopefully we've got a few listeners taking notes, because it seems you're providing very, very worthwhile information every 5 minutes. Like Carly said, every 5 minutes. It's good to know. Good stuff. I mean, I hope to be a homeowner someday, and building my own property, I think a dream of many, myself included. So
yeah.
Luckily, I can just kind of play back this podcast, right, and take notes. All right, let's see what else we got. Yeah, or give you a call. Hey,
there it is.
Cool.
There's the before.
That's the before of the previous
photo,
photo, hey?
moly.
Yeah. So that's what we started with, and that's
Holy
what we left
man,
with.
really? That's night and day for sure.
Yeah.
Holy, wow.
Yeah. So
They made the right choice for sure.
We went through as it was an addition, they said.
An addition, yeah, an addition.
New
Wow.
house.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's good because you can do some pretty substantial stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not too difficult to get the approvals for it, and yeah.
As long as you got the moolah, I guess, right? Because I
Yeah.
mean, you could probably get close to purchasing a new home for the amount that they maybe spend on those kind of improvements. I mean,
and that's a big of when you're talking with your contractor with your budget, and what are you doing, how much money are you willing to spend, where is this your forever house, is this a rental property, are you going to be here for a couple of years and then sell it? I mean, those are all pretty valuable considerations when you're going into a project. Where do you want to put a ton of money into something that you're not necessarily going to get the return on? And then with something like this, yes, it's debatable how much money was truly saved by keeping the existing structure and not just doing a brand new. I think the basement on this thing was like 600 square feet or something like that, and that's really the footprint that we were dealing with. That they saved that amount of space. Everything else around it was brand new. So yeah, it's to each their own, and everybody can rationalize different things, and yeah,
for sure. I feel like they made the right choice. I mean, I'm not sure of the neighborhood, but definitely have some envious neighbors after some construction like that. Okay, what else? Another
so that's just the rendering
drawing
of the previous one,
right? Yeah. Okay.
So that's.
Do you help them with any? I mean, it might be the wrong question to ask, but in design or anything like that, do you have any sort of you throw 2 cents in here and there?
Yeah, we can, and that kind of goes back to really our ideal customer knows what they want. We don't necessarily, we're pretty clear with clients that we're not really there to help you figure out what you want. There's a lot of drafting companies that are going to do that, design companies, interior designers, architects, where they're going to be happy to sit with you multiple times, go through that design phase and that design process. We typically don't. If it is a customer that comes like, hey, like we want to design a house, basically I'm expecting them to already have a really good idea of what it is that they want, and they just need help making it happen, not really figuring out what they want to have happen.
Right.
But yeah, we do put in our 2 cents. Again, a lot of the times, for something like this, it's going to be around like, hey, they maybe wanted an 8-foot front porch, and like, hey, if we do 6 feet, it's going to be easier from a permitting standpoint. Or you wanted this, but that's going to cause a relaxation. So are you okay cutting this back, or reconfiguring things a certain way to avoid permitting issues? Is more on when we'll hop in and kind of give our 2 cents more on the design. If somebody were to come and say, hey, we like this, we draw a lot of stuff that I would never build myself. I don't necessarily like. My personal preference is to a certain extent irrelevant as far as what it looks like. I kind of like to tell contractors that I care about what it looks like about as much as the city does, meaning not really at all. We want to make sure that it meets the bylaw and it meets code.
Okay, I see.
That's our concern.
Right.
As far as, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Right.
What you love, I could hate, vice versa. So, as long as the client's happy, we're happy, and we can continue on getting approvals.
For sure. So I guess a good way to put it, or a better way to put it, you provide guidance that could save them some money and also help to streamline the permit process.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
A side note, you reminded me of a song I haven't heard in a long time, Eye of the Beholder. Metallica song. No, it's an old Metallica song. I haven't heard that song in so long, and there you go.
Yeah.
Brain wires connecting. Eye of the Beholder. Gonna have to listen to that later on today.
Yeah.
Okay, next photo. Right on.
So another new house. This one had a little loft upstairs, so kind of a little, not quite full 2-story, but so again, I mean, this is another good example of the developer of this came to us with a pretty well developed set of plans of what it is that they're looking for. They'd already kind of figured out the layout and what they wanted it to look like. They give us their sketches and we make that happen. And then we deal with any issues that come up from, working through their design and make sure that what they want will work in Calgary. That's the thing, because the bylaws change everywhere. What you can do in Calgary, you can't necessarily do in Rocky View or Airdrie, or they're municipal rules. So where the building code is provincial, it's the Alberta building code.
Right.
The Calgary land use bylaw is just for Calgary city limits. Once you go outside of that, it's somebody else's rules, which fortunately I like that. I like dealing with the bylaws and all of that stuff. If I didn't, then I would definitely be in the wrong line of work. But each city that we deal with, each jurisdiction has their own permitting rules, their own processes, their own their own way that they want things done. So that also goes back to my experience at the city, where we're comfortable dealing with any municipality now. I worked for one of the bigger cities in Canada, the City of Calgary Planning Department. So if I could figure out their process, it's very easy for me to deal with Airdrie, or when we deal with brand new municipalities where we haven't actually done any work before. Through a quick conversation with their planning department, we can figure out how they do what they do there, and find the information to the questions. We know what questions to ask and how to get those answers quickly.
That's great. You certainly are fully equipped. I mean, the experience you got from working for the City of Calgary Planning Department, I think, is what you mentioned, certainly helped you quite a bit down the road.
Yeah. Well, people just want to, it'd be similar with you guys in roofing. I mean, your customers just want to know that how to, do a new roof or repair their existing.
Yeah, of course.
When people are approaching a company like mine, they just want to know that we can get them a permit.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so it's good information to have. But yeah, back to this one, it was, they knew what they wanted. We made it happen, and that's what we like.
Yeah, right on. Really nice looking home. I actually appreciate the stone siding more than anything else. I seem to find that more so in the richer communities, or just the larger, really nice homes. Yeah. To see that on a smaller home, I think really gives a total, well, not an impression, but it gives it a way more sophisticated appearance, I suppose.
Yeah. Stone's awesome. And and you definitely see it in the more affluent communities, because it's expensive. It's a much more expensive facade than,
of course,
vinyl or anything else. So that's also the other thing when you chat with owners. The cooler your design looks, the more expensive it will be.
Yeah, of course.
Or the nicer that you want it, the more expensive it will be, both on our side, our fees to actually draw it. The cooler something is, obviously the more complicated it is. So yeah, I just tell clients to always keep that in mind.
Right. So as per siding, curious if there are any bylaws, or I'm not sure if bylaw is the right word, as to which materials are suitable or I guess permitted to be used as siding.
That's a good question.
The city.
Yeah, for the most part, no. You're kind of free to do what you want, and that kind of goes back to, as long as you meet the rules of the bylaw, you're allowed to kind of do whatever you want. Now, there are certain restrictions. So for accessory buildings, for example, if you have a garage that's and I think it's within 2 feet of a property line, it has to be maintenance-free siding, so it can't be wood. Is basically the only restriction.
Oh, you can't use wood.
Yeah.
Right, okay. I still see that pretty often, though. Was that outdated?
It's just if you're too close to a property line.
They
want it to be maintenance-free.
Okay.
But yeah, outside of that, no, you can go now in certain communities, and depending on the original developer, there are things called architectural controls. So if you go into some communities where everything has a very specific look, chances are there might be something registered on title that it has to be this percentage of this type of stone and this type of stucco, or this, this color, whatever the case is. So the developers can have requirements like that. So if you are buying a house in certain communities, that's something that you may want to look into. And we've dealt with that a couple of times, where we then years later do a renovation to a house that had architectural controls on it, where they were a little bit more restricted on what they were allowed to do to that house. But yeah, for the most part, yeah, if you want to do stone, stucco, vinyl, hardy, metal, whatever the case is.
What about hubcaps?
Hubcaps?
I just, considering you're from Kamloops, I was thinking of Grindrod. I'm sure you might have driven through Grindrod. It's just a tiny little house, or sorry, city, town, I suppose.
Grindrod, to be honest, I've actually never even heard of
Grindrod. They have that residential home right on the main road, hubcaps everywhere.
Yeah.
Like all over the fences, everywhere, the siding of the home, everything hubcaps. I thought you might. I feel like you might have driven through there.
Yeah.
It's right on like the Trans Canada. You have
to
on your way down into the Okanagan, but
I mean, theoretically, you could put hubcaps, I guess, on your house. I mean, from a building science standpoint, that couldn't be the primary facade. You'd have some water issues, I think, but
no doubt.
Yeah, but yeah, as far as like the decorative elements to it, it's pretty hard. Now the city does have bylaws to make sure people upkeep their yards. So, I mean, that theoretically, not necessarily under the planning department, but for example, if your neighbor just stops cutting his yard and there's weeds everywhere and it's gross, like you can call the city and complain, be like, hey, like my neighbor's not, if the property isn't being kept to a certain standard, the city can get involved.
Right.
So I mean, theoretically, somebody might complain if you threw a bunch of hubcaps up on your house. But.
Yeah. Do you think that could affect like the value of the property if the neighboring home was in,
well, yeah, that's
disarray?
That's why they have rules. That's why there are bylaws.
So.
Yeah. And when you say bylaws, there's the building bylaws. There's a bunch of different bylaws in any municipality. I just stick to the ones that are dealing with building something.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, there's noise bylaws and all kinds of things. So.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah. So this was the house we were just looking at, actually.
Right. Oh, same home. Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it
there
is.
You go.
Yep. Difficult to tell, different angle, but seems they had matched the blueprint.
Yeah, for the most part. Well, you kind of have to.
Yeah, I guess so. Here's the drawing. This is what we're gonna build.
Yeah, it's that's what we applied for. We submit the drawings to the city, so ideally it should. If it doesn't look like it, then something went a little sideways.
Yeah,
and you do have some flexibility with siding or stuff like that. The city's pretty flexible with, and that's also why we don't get involved with a lot of the design, where it's like whatever the client wants to do. And how I kind of explain it to people is if it affects the permit, or if the building code cares about it, then we're going to care about it. But the type of stone, size of stone, things like that, it can change. It doesn't affect the permit, so it's not really necessarily something that we're going to be concerned with.
Yeah, something that wouldn't change dimensions. Or
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. And that's how we can kind of keep our fees more affordable, our turnaround times quicker. Is that we really only care about what the city cares about. And we're not necessarily a company fit for everybody looking to design a house or do a renovation. Some people want more of that more in-depth approach and design approach. But for a lot of contractors that need the permit, they understand that if they can't get that stone, they're going to just put something else on, and it doesn't really affect anything. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is another addition that we did.
Upwards or outwards?
It's actually still a bungalow, technically.
Holy man.
This one, yeah.
Holy.
Yeah, so it's still under construction.
So they went for 2 extra floors in this case?
Yeah, well, actually, so there's a big addition off the back that kind of created that walkout scenario.
Right.
And then we did an addition onto the back of the bungalow as well. And then it's just basically 2-story high interior walls, so the entire main floor there. So the 2 sets of windows, bottom floor is the basement, and then up the 2 sets of windows above that deck there. That's all the main floor. That's just open to above, all vaulted. Yeah.
Right on. Cool.
Yeah.
You definitely seen, or you would definitely be exposed to quite a few different designs, of course.
Yeah.
create some variety.
There's definitely,
Yeah.
there's no shortage of variety. Now we have a couple of volume builders that we do the exact same thing for all the time, which, you know, we love those. At the end of the day, I'm just happy drafting and drawing stuff. But yeah, you get to, no two jobs are necessarily the same. And even if, you know, our screen room or sunroom companies that we do all of their permits for, the house always changes. So even though it's the same product that we're drafting, and actually good segue. So this is through one of those companies where we do, there's a few different companies that sell these louvered roofs and screen rooms. Suncoast Enclosures, Sweet Outdoors are two of the main ones that do that. Four Seasons Sunrooms, we do all of their permits. They're more for a full enclosure type. But yeah, so it's the same product, but the house always changes. So we still get that variety, at least on my end, on the drafting side, that no two jobs are ever the same.
Thank God for that. Right? If I was having to re-roof the same roof every day, and I'd grow tired.
It would
of
get
it.
old, yeah.
No doubt about it. So with this roof, with this property, you'd mentioned a couple companies. Was this something that they were kind of a part of when it came to the design, or?
Yeah, so with Sweet Outdoors and Suncoast, Four Seasons, those companies, they sell a product. So Four Seasons Sunroom sells sunrooms. So they've got a couple different models. Homeowners can go in and buy one of their homes, and we kind of click it onto the house in a basic way. With Suncoast and Sweet Outdoors, they've got screen rooms. This one was just a pergola option, where it's a standard product that they have. Details are all the same. The layout structure changes and things like that, but so this is a good example of our kind of ideal client are those three companies that I just mentioned, where they sell the same thing. They just need a permit. We have zero input on the design. It's going to be as per their product, their specs. They're going to have their own restrictions on what their product can do. So they figure out exactly how it's going to work. And then we come in and take care of the permitting, the engineering. So my team and the engineers that we use would come and inspect the existing structure, sign off on that. That deck is going to be able to hold a little bit of additional roof load, and deal with the permits.
Well, right on. I think they chose the right path when it came to this home. Anyways, that's just coming from a personal standpoint. I think it's great. I'd love to have a deck as expansive as that, and I mean, with the pillars as well. I think it's a great
that's
approach.
one that's overlooking Nose Hill. That one.
Oh, even
up
better.
On the hill, yeah.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time on that deck.
Pretty wicked views. Yeah.
Now I'll be looking out for that house.
Yeah.
The next time we're walking the dog,
yeah,
be looking for those pillars. Right on. Okay. Cool. Got another.
So another similar product, different company. This was a Suncoast one, where the other one was Sweet Outdoors. So they sell very much very similar products. So we do the permitting for both of them, and same idea, existing house, and you need a permit to put any type of roof structure up, so that's where we come in.
So even just that roof section above the deck itself, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can see there's some like a glass doorway on the left side of it.
Yeah, so there'd be, they kind of, this one, and it's kind of hard on this view, but there's a lot of these ones when it's just the pergola, it's retractable screen walls, so they kind of go up and down to whatever you want, and then there's going to be fixed screen walls where if they do want an actual door or something like that.
I see.
They can do all screen walls, all retractable. There's a sunroom. So this is through Four Seasons Sunrooms. And same idea. It's their product. We kind of click it onto the house. And
right. Yeah, I'd probably do more gardening there than I would lounging. But it'd be terrific for both, I suppose. Okay. We got another. Oh, that's one.
That's another sunroom. Yeah. That was a decent sized one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that as well. It'd be great for, well, you name it. Having that kind of enclosed space outdoors like that would be a luxury.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, the sunrooms are tough because going back to that glazing that we're talking about, that the code is a little bit restrictive on glass, so the code doesn't necessarily like big glass boxes attached to houses, so there can be some fun in making those work.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the rendering of one of the earlier ones that we had looked at.
Right. Maybe I can find it.
Yeah.
Maybe, just maybe, but I think that might be
Yeah,
it.
there you go.
Okay, yeah, cool. Right on. No, it turned out great. There's a pre-existing tree, I suppose, eh? That'd be hard to plant something that large.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's the rendering. Right on. Yeah, it turned out great. We have...
Yeah, so this is another
that's
backyard suite where the guy, his little brief was basically castle. And never actually got built, but it was an interesting one to work with.
Yeah, why not? I mean, if you have a very small lot,
yeah,
I guess your only choice is to build upwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been cool. Yeah, that would be cool for sure. I feel like I've seen some homes like that around. Just like a...
Yeah, that stonework's very common. I thought it was kind of funny just with like this was a backyard suite, so again, just detached from the house with a little suite above it, and just a little bachelor suite. But yeah, it had a unique look to it
for sure.
So this is another backyard suite. So a little bit bigger, obviously, and backyard suites, I like them because they're basically little houses.
Yeah,
same codes and everything, and anything that goes into a new house, basically from a drafting standpoint, is going to go into a backyard suite. Bylaws are a little bit different for a suite than a house, but yeah, so you can do quite a bit. So this is another one that we had approved, and I mean you can make them look as nice or as plain as you want. And
I like the chimney, how it's more external use.
Mm-hmm.
And they put the fire pit on the exterior.
Yeah,
that's actually not a bad idea at all.
Yeah, and this one, and then we just have a gas fireplace on the inside on the main floor there. So it's just wood on the
tied
outside,
into the same
gas
stack.
on the
Cool, right on.
And,
I guess the other question is as to whether or not the renter of the suite itself would have garage access or not.
Yeah, so
it's hard to say.
So I mean, technically they have to. Part of the approval process is showing the city where people are parking.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so one bay would be for the tenants, one bay would be for the house. Yeah.
We looked at a place like that once before back in the
elevator.
Day. Yeah,
and
there was one half of the garage I think is off limits.
The whole garage is off limits.
Was the whole thing?
Mm-hmm. I know. I'm realizing right now they're breaking rules.
We should have called 7-day permits on them, man. We should have.
Sending you after
you
them.
don't call me to complain about people.
They're in trouble.
Hey man, can you pull up the permits and show them what's necessary and what's not?
Yeah. So this is another backyard suite. So this is just detached at grade, so more like a garden suite, I guess you would call it. So it's not above a garage; it's just a detached suite from the house. Yeah, but yeah, technically parking's always tough, and that's one of the issues with suites is, and a lot of communities get a little bit bent out of shape when people are trying to get new suites in because it can create parking issues.
Yeah, I could imagine.
And from a planning standpoint, we just need to show that the site can accommodate the extra parking stall that's required. And I mean, really, at the end of the day, how the homeowners choose to use that garage, it's pretty tough to police. So
yeah,
it's not uncommon to find the scenario that you guys described.
Seems like worthwhile endeavor. I mean, if you had a detached garage, if you were to build a suite, attached to it or above it, some sort, I mean, it's a great idea for passive income, right?
Yeah.
It's not a bad approach at all.
Yeah, I've noticed a little bit, I wouldn't say a slowdown. It's the cost of materials has made the cost of these go up pretty substantially. I mean, they're always an expensive product, but a lot of homeowners don't necessarily realize that like it is a house. Like you're building a little house in your backyard.
Right.
So it's not something you can do for like $100,000. Like
electrical, plumbing.
It's a house, yeah. So that's where a lot of times where the little bit that we get involved with when pricing is they think like, how much is it going to cost? It's like, hey, like you want to talk with a contractor, but like, what kind of ballpark are you thinking? Because I have a little bit of an idea that we have had people contact us that like, hey, we want to be able to do this for $80,000. Do you think that's reasonable? It's like, absolutely not. It's not going to happen. We can do up a set of plans for you, but expect substantially more than that. Now there's variables. How much work are they going to be able to do themselves? Do they know somebody in the industry? It's always tough that you theoretically, you could build one of these for $100,000 if you owned a construction company and
that
you're going to do the work yourself. But
seen some advertisements for Home Depot. I'm not sure if they have them here, but they have like tiny homes, like pre-constructed tiny homes. You can buy at Home Depot. Just buy one of those.
Yeah.
Grab some tie downs.
Yeah.
Throw it up on the roof of the garage. Cut a hole in the roof in the garage.
Yeah.
Put a ladder on it. And
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
If you want to keep things really, really affordable, although I feel like you'd be, you know.
Well, the development permit for that would probably cause you some issues.
Precisely.
The city would likely use their discretion to say they don't want to see that.
Yeah, Brody, for legal reasons, disclose you're joking.
Disclose I'm joking. Yeah, I do not advise.
Payne people said I could do that.
Yeah, I do not advise buying a tiny home and strapping it to the roof of your garage. I am not.
Call 7-day permits if you are interested, and we'll advise you not to.
Yes, precisely. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for looking out, Carly. I don't want to. Don't want to create a bad rap here. Because I hear that in practically every YouTube video I watch is for whatever subject.
For legal purposes.
Yeah, exactly. Disclaimer. You know, this is not medical advice.
People
this
take
is not
things
financial
seriously.
advice. Watch videos about stocks and stuff. Like, no. Like, I'm not. There's no financial advice here. Just so you know.
At the end of the day, contact the city and get those answers.
And
it's funny. Actually, we got on that topic when the pandemic started, and I can't remember what the company was now. That there's a few that came up where they're like, basically tiny homes, like put your office in your backyard. And I commented on one of their Instagrams. It was like make sure you're telling people that, like, if you're running your office from an accessory building, there's quite a bit that's involved in that, and home occupation class 2 and development permits and things like that. So it's easy to think that it's very simple that you can just buy one of these and I can put it up. The canopies and things like at Costco, you can go and buy like a car cover, for example. Like once you're covering more than 10 square meters, that 100 square feet, you need a permit for it. So if you go and buy a 10 by 12 gazebo from Costco, like, you technically need a permit to put that in your yard. Yeah.
What's the likelihood of people actually applying for a permit?
I mean,
something
next
like
to none. Yeah. I mean, and mainly because it's quite difficult to actually get a permit for some of those pre-engineered structures because it is a pre-engineered. So if the structure itself doesn't come with clear specifications, then you got to find an engineer that's going to sign off technically on that structure. So it can get kind of complicated. That a lot of that stuff kind of happens, and that's where, within reason, I mean, if you're 10 by 11, yes, technically you need a permit. Are people going to go through that process? At the end of the day, it's their property. It's going to be their call. But it is just good information, and that's just kind of a good example that just because you can buy something doesn't mean you can technically put it in your yard in Calgary. Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I might have to think twice, I guess, in the future because I've got my eye on a few things.
Yeah.
But I don't have too much yard space to begin with anyway, so I'll have to just make do with what I got.
Just keep it under 10 by 10. Then you're
10 by 10, that's the magic number. Okay.
Yeah.
Indeed. Okay, so what do we got? Anything different going on here?
Yeah, I mean, this was a decent sized house out in Rockview that we did. So it's about as pretty a rectangle as you're going to find.
Right.
Because it was a rectangle. Yeah, it was just a square. But yeah, so this again goes back to just a good customer for us is a developer out there. Had kind of a vision of what it is they wanted to see, and we make that happen. Do up the floor plans, elevations, sections, details, organize the engineering, deal with Rockview, get all the permits, and this one's under construction right now as well. There's just an added bonus that they had a big 7 in front of it, which I always like to see.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, you can certainly see that. You should have highlighted it in the photo, just to emphasize. That's certainly, I'm sure it feels really rewarding seeing something like this, being passed and currently now under construction.
Yeah.
Now you had a part to play there. That's great.
Yeah, there is a certain job satisfaction for sure.
Yeah.
I've seen that stuff get built, and
Sorry.
What are you laughing at this time, Carly?
Your mom.
My mom. Mom, give it a rest.
She wants me to give her a hint on a secret word, so I'm trying to think.
A hint on the secret word.
He has said it a lot.
Your hint, would be that we've used it.
Yeah.
We've used it
A bajillion times.
try not to use it too much.
Yeah, you don't want to give it away.
Yeah.
It's not the. I'll tell you that. It's not the. It's not at. It's none of those,
Boring words.
What is there a word for those type of words? Like there is. I can't remember. It's not an adjective or a verb or a noun. What is the? What is that? You know what? We're moving. We're off topic. Okay, let's move through these photos. This is not a grammar class.
Yeah. So this is actually out in what's that community? So Cottage Club. It's a development just outside of Cochrane. I want to say Cochrane. Is it Cochrane? I can't remember now off the top of my head, but it's So this is an area when you're talking about like architectural controls and stuff. This development has specific rules. This one actually restricted the size, so they're meant to be cottages, so you could only go so big. Yeah.
Well, it's pretty. You don't need too much space really to do what most people need to do. I mean, in my case, just recording music and things like that don't need too much space, but some people, I guess, are just claustrophobic, right? They have to stay away from my house like that.
Well, it's funny having this one after that other one where I think this was under 1,000 square feet total developed area. I'm pretty sure on this one because it's just main floor in the loft, and that other one was probably about 5,000 square feet. Yeah, they're night and day different in sizes.
No doubt. It looks just as modern though, right? And I mean, can't really say anything negative about it. I mean, depends on whether or not size is a real issue for you. I mean, that might be a negative for some, but I think it looks nice. Okay, we're coming up on the last photo in our reel.
Yeah, there's the back of it.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. Same property. Cool. Well, I like they got a little deck in the front.
Yeah.
Lots of windows. I like windows for sure. I would have went with the like reflective windows on the exterior portion of it. I'm not sure cost-wise how much more expensive that would be, but having totally, or I guess like kind of like the way a two-way mirror works.
Yeah, more that mirrored finish. Yeah, so a little bit more privacy.
Yeah, right on. Well, cool. It looks nice. So I guess what we're gonna do is scroll back to that logo. Put your pretty logo up there for everyone to see. We've got logos. We got 7-day permit logos all over the place. We got the hats.
Came prepared.
We got the nice glasses. See if I can show up one of these glasses a little up close. You're gonna have to fill this up here soon. What camera are we on, Carly? This one here?
Sure, yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be hard to see.
Kind of. It looks really. It looks good now. Yeah, I focused.
Cool. Yeah,
Tough one.
super nice glasses.
You wanted some water, you said?
Oh yeah, no, sure. I was gonna fill it up afterwards, but hey, water's good.
Oh, we got a nice little feature of your tattoos in shot right now.
There you go.
Tattoos too. Yeah, hey, right on. Blocking the guest's camera. Cool. Right on. Permits are important. And to know that we've got a cool guy like you on the other side of the phone when they're calling is certainly a plus for potential clients.
We try.
Yeah, no doubt.
No, we try to educate. We try to be fair with everybody. And like I said, I saw a lot of things when I was at the city that I wanted to try with my company to help solve some of the problems. And mainly it was that, just because somebody can draw you something doesn't mean you can get the permit. So, what we like to say is we don't draw pictures, we get permits. Then it takes more than a picture to get a permit.
Yeah.
So, make sure if you are in need of services like us, or you're looking to hire a company, call around. Obviously I wouldn't say we're necessarily too available at the moment. We've got quite a big lead time right now. It's quite a busy, an exceptionally busy year, but just make sure you do your homework. Treat the drafting company the same way you would a contractor. Verify them, ask for references, all that fun stuff. Make sure that they have experience doing the project that you have. Just because companies maybe have got 1,000 permits approved, but if they're all decks, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to be the best fit to take on your addition drafting job as well. And same with contractors as well. If all your builder's done is ever do is fences, maybe you don't want to hire him to do the addition to your house. So just make sure they have experience.
Make sure they're diversified, I guess, in the world of permits for sure. Carly's laughing over there again.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I forget how sensitive this is. I went because your mom won. She guessed the word.
Oh,
my mother.
Yes.
There we go.
Well, did she read the rules for the?
This was her second guess. So yes.
Her second guess.
Yeah.
Does she live in Calgary or surrounding areas?
That's the rules.
Did she read the
her
rules?
Her son lives in surrounding areas.
Well,
don't take it away from her.
The description has all the rules, and you'd announced that she'd won. So now nobody else can guess.
Sorry for ruining it.
Okay. Well. I guess Carly should have read the rules before
Didn't have to point it out, man. Embarrassing me on live television.
You pointed it. Well, I had to make it clear for our viewers as well.
Okay.
Well, I guess we'll make that bed when the podcast is over. We'll figure out what to do in this case.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to the podcast. We've been running pretty long. We're going on an hour and a half here. Not a bad thing at all. But we had a lot to talk about. Learned a lot of cool things. Obviously, 10 by 10 square footage need a permit after that, which is great.
Yeah.
Because that could be very applicable.
Yeah. Keep the sheds less than 10 by 10. Decks under 2 feet.
Under 2 feet. Yeah, that's right. And as for
anything else, call.
And another thing you said, assume you always need a permit.
That's the easiest thing. Yeah. It's pretty rare that you're not going to need one. A lot of cosmetic stuff. So you want to renovate your kitchen, do new cabinets, new island. You don't necessarily need a permit for that.
Right.
Really, if you're touching any framing, anything structural, obviously. But I mean, there's so many variables, and that's where we just we kind of keep it simple. Assume you need one, and contact somebody that knows. Don't just start ripping your house apart.
Yeah.
Make a phone call. And if nothing, I mean, a few of the things where it's important is it's mainly it deals with the bylaws. It deals with that what you're doing is going to comply with the rules in your city, so that you don't do something that's going to cause you an issue later or cause you an issue when you go to sell your house. That a very quick phone call can at least let you know what the rules are, that even if you want to do it without permits, at least you know what the rules are, what to build and where to put, whatever structure you're doing. Obviously never advise people to build without them, but just have that conversation and educate yourself on what's needed.
Sound words, no doubt about it. Wise advice, no doubt about it, because you'd rather have the green light to build something legally rather than end up in jail or pay a huge fine. Do you think that's possible? Could you build a structure that is just so wild without permits that it could actually land you in jail?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think if things were to get really escalated, there would be some issues. I mean, more for contractors, you can get stop work orders and you can get some issues there. As far as it bridging that criminal line, I don't know. It's a good question.
It was a far out question, I suppose, but I guess more on
hopefully
the fringe.
Hopefully it doesn't get that far ever.
I'd like to see a news article though around somebody constructed some sort of immense whatever and it was just too wild and they had to put them behind bars.
I think more of the issues are going to be if whatever structure fails and somebody gets hurt, then there's that
Gross
issue, which
negligence or
again, you don't want to, and that's where we deal with homeowners and secondary suites. Like, to a certain extent, you kind of got to think that worst case scenario, that if you have that illegal basement suite and there's a fire and somebody gets hurt, whose responsibility is that? So there's lots of things where it's, in my opinion, it's just better to just do it properly. It may cost a little bit more money. It may, take a little bit longer, but still no excuse to do it the wrong way.
Well, that could be, arguably manslaughter. I'm not sure, but if you're from a legal standpoint, if you were to,
not gonna comment on the legality.
No, of course, but you build something, it doesn't hold up, and someone gets hurt. That could be a bad thing.
It's time for some personal questions. It's been an hour and a half.
No,
I can
about to segue.
I don't know if you've noticed, but I can talk a bit about permits.
No, that's okay. Well, that's what the podcast is for. But I was going to segue into, hey, let's get to know you outside of the business. So thank you for the reminder. Whoever the reminder came from online, somebody probably said, "Oh, Carly. Well, hey, Carly's keeping us straight here." Great work. Yeah. Well, we could. JRE has done like 4.5-5 hours before. I've seen that.
You wish you were that good.
Yeah, Joe Rogan and Alex Jones. Alex Jones returns. That's a good one. Anyways, off topic again. Mm-hmm. It's fun to just shoot the crap. We'll say.
Yeah.
Outside of 7-day permits.
Yeah.
What other hobbies, interests do you have? Like, what are you into?
Yeah, the family is huge for me. I got two little girls. I'm getting married in May, so.
Hey, right on. I'm getting married in July.
Oh,
yeah,
congratulations.
Cool. Right on. Congratulations to you. I actually knew that because I was going through your Facebook earlier looking for whatever information I could just for the podcast, and I noticed you're getting married soon. So cool.
My social media presence varies depending on how busy I am.
Right, of course. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, but outside of family and stuff, summers I kayak. I don't do a lot in the winter. I don't like the cold very much. So being from Kamloops, like I skateboarded my whole childhood, and in Kamloops you could basically skateboard year round, and if there's snow on the ground you could just find a parkade, and it wasn't too cold. So a little bit different out here. Calgary gets a little bit chillier than what I grew up with, but kayaking's kind of the main hobby. I got into paintball last year, so one of my contractors got me into that, so we'll go every couple of weeks. And that season I think starts next week.
Right on.
I think that goes up.
Mike, CEO of No Payne, actually, he's brought us out to capture the flag a few times.
Oh, okay,
Just
yeah.
out in Ypres.
That hurt.
That's a cool spot.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, paintball's fun.
Yeah.
Painful.
Right on.
Well,
Any other areas you could recommend, or if there's been any other,
Yeah, I've done Capture the Flag. Because that's the one out past Cochrane, no?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
yeah.
towards
And I
like
go
the
to Cochrane
ghost,
and then
in the
basically
ghost
go
area.
that far again. Yeah. Bright Creek is where we usually go. It's just a little bit closer.
Okay.
And then I can't remember the other one off the top of my head. There's 3 that are relatively close. Those 2, and then I can't remember the third one right now. But I'm relatively new to the sport and all of that. But it's super fun. It's fun to just run around, and it's definitely a stress reliever. And yeah.
Yeah, cool. Right on. Keeps you active.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
Yeah.
Gives you the I guess the combat. What's the word? I guess. I mean, elevates your senses in a way, knowing you got some projectiles coming towards you. So.
Yeah, a little bit better than the video games. And
Yeah,
and
no
all of
doubt.
that,
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah,
Kayaking. I've never actually been kayaking before.
Yeah, we did.
Well, like rented like crappy little Pelicans before though, but nothing like.
We went at when we were for Thanksgiving with the dog.
Oh, our other fellow campers had one,
Mhm.
right? But I'm assuming you're kayaking like in some pretty
On the river, yeah.
right.
more
I
than
guess
a
some
lake
actual
or-
moving water
yeah.
and whatnot.
Yeah, so I've kayaked for a few years. I definitely don't have enough time to dedicate to that sport as I would necessarily like. Unfortunately, my busiest time of year is the same time as all of my hobbies, so there's always that little bit of a sacrifice. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and even you don't have to go super extreme. And I by no means got to any. I started quite late in life getting into kayaking. It was actually during university. So I'll go up to about a class 3 is what I like to mess around with, which is it'd be like the Kananaskis River. I'm totally at home in that. That's big enough and fun enough for me. Buddies of mine, they go class 5 and they're doing waterfalls, and you can, as with any sport, you can be as crazy with it as you want. So I've got zero interest in ever getting into that level of it, but it's nice just to be able to take the boat and go out and that little area in Calgary. I don't know the weir that they redeveloped, and they got all the little man-made rapids.
Yeah, I know where that is. Yeah,
so that's
kind of right down in
super
Inglewood.
fun little spot. You can you can just I'll head down there in the evenings and just go for a little paddle, and it's just a couple little, nothing intense or nothing too crazy. It's just being on the water is really nice, relaxing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to hear you're outdoors at least, because that's more important than people realize. To be outside and being active.
Yeah.
In the sun, it's good for your mind, good for your body.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I try to take the kids camping and get them out, get them dirty, and yeah, it's definitely important, I think, to have that balance. And it's easy for me with how busy work can get to not necessarily make enough time for all of that. So it's good to have some way to get outside.
Yeah, of course, right on. And when you don't have time, set up a tent in your backyard. Right?
Yeah, there you go.
Do something like that, an above ground fire pit.
Yeah.
All that good stuff. Well, right on, Rob. It's been a real pleasure having you here.
Yeah.
Learned a few things today, things I didn't really have any idea about. I'm sure our viewers have also, gained a lot from watching through this podcast.
Yeah. Well,
So
I was excited to come on, and yeah, appreciate the opportunity to talk about what I do.
Yeah, terrific. Well, it's nice to know you're into extreme sports as well. I think kayaking, I guess, also counts as an extreme sport.
Yeah. At the
Paintball's
level
extreme.
much higher than what I do. I would not say
guess
what
so.
I am involved with is extreme in any sense. But
some people hate water, and kayaking is extreme enough for them.
Yeah.
Paintballing as well too, extreme.
Yeah.
Skateboarding, I skated growing up as well
Yeah.
too. Broke my ankle a few times.
Yeah.
I mean, that's extreme. So
Yeah.
I think
Kayaking,
definitely-
I'm kind of like, you can think of kayaking and skiing as the same thing, that I stick to the hill, and then there's the guys that go into the backcountry and hella skiing and stuff like that. So same sport, but different.
Right. Well, thank you for coming as well.
Yeah.
I got a new hat, which is sweet. Flat brim, definitely of the essence for me right now anyways. Until my hair gets a little bit longer, might have to change that up a bit. But you brought us nice glasses, brought us a drink as well,
There you
which
go.
we appreciate.
No problem
And
at all.
taking the time to sit here for almost 2 hours with us is also greatly appreciated. So,
No, well, yeah, it's been awesome. It's fun.
I think we're good
Sweet.
company.
what's that?
I think we're good company.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's good to talk for sure. So as for our audience, thanks for tuning in. We're running podcasts every Thursday at 3 p.m. Not going to tell you who our next guest is, but if you keep an eye out online, you'll see who it is. as for the mystery word, it looks like we had a bit of a hiccup. We had certain people guessing that didn't really fall within the parameters for the contest itself. So we'll likely post some information about that in the near future. Sorry, Mom.
Pauline's getting her backpack.
Yeah.
I ran it through Mike off
Through
the radar.
Well, we have a winner, I guess. Pauline Vizina Campitelli. Thanks for playing. I'm happy that you won. She had no idea. I didn't feed my mom any information behind the scenes or anything. This was totally authentic. Just for those of you wondering, I didn't give her any hints. But she's a dedicated subscriber. Bringing us to the next point. If you're not subscribed to No Payne Roofing on Facebook and YouTube and all that good stuff, be sure to subscribe, because every podcast we do the mystery word challenge, and every time you win, you have a chance at winning $500. So be sure to get on top of that. You'll stay updated as to when our podcasts are going live, and the more you know, the better your chances are at winning $500 cash. So again, thanks for listening. Rob, thanks for being here. It was totally kick-ass. And Carly, thanks for running the tech. We did a swell job. And in the meantime, everybody take care, and we'll see you next Thursday at 3 p.m.
Thanks, guys.